Hey, welcome back. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is the Unraveling Thread. You know, my father called me from Dhaka last week. He's been a government engineer his whole life, and he's finally about to retire. And he was asking me, with this mix of pride and anxiety that only a parent can have, if his pension was safe. If the money he'd deferred for decades, the security he'd earned, would actually be there. I told him what I knew, and I tried to sound reassuring. But after we hung up, I just sat there, thinking about that question on a massive scale. Because the unsettling truth is, the very system designed to safeguard our collective future, our pensions, is engaged in a high-stakes gamble. And the chips on the table are our homes. So today, we're pulling on a thread that connects your retirement statement to your neighbor's mortgage, to the entire stability of the housing market. This is the pension gamble, how your retirement fund is fueling the next housing crash. Let's start with a basic but crucial understanding. Your pension fund, whether it's a massive state fund for teachers or a corporate one, has one job: to take the money you and your employer put in, grow it over decades, and then pay you out when you retire. To do that, the fund managers need returns. Safe, steady, reliable returns. For generations, the bedrock of that strategy was the bond market, especially ultra-safe government bonds. But for over a decade now, we've been living in a world of historically low interest rates. And when bond yields are microscopic, pension funds get desperate. They have to go hunting for yield elsewhere. They need an asset that looks stable, that generates decent income, and that they can pour hundreds of billions of dollars into. And what did they find? The American housing market. This is the first pivot. Pension funds, from California to New York, and sovereign wealth funds from Norway to Canada, have become massive landlords. They're not buying a house or two. They're buying entire neighborhoods. They're deploying billions into what's called the single-family rental market. After the 2008 crash, when millions of homes were foreclosed, these institutional buyers swooped in, bought houses in bulk, and turned them into permanent rental properties. It was a brilliant trade. They got tangible assets and a steady stream of rental income that looked fantastic compared to bond yields. And for a while, it worked. But this massive influx of institutional capital fundamentally changed the housing market. It removed a huge chunk of starter homes from the ownership market, turning them into permanent rentals. It drove up prices for the homes that were left because they were now competing with all-cash, billion-dollar funds. And it created a new, powerful player with one goal: maximizing that rental income to hit their pension return targets. Which brings us to the second, and more dangerous, pivot. The easy deals are gone. The cheap houses are bought. So how do you keep growing? How do you find even higher yields to meet those pension promises? You move up the risk ladder. Pension funds are now pouring money into private real estate debt. This is the less sexy, but far more systemic, part of the gamble. They're funding non-bank lenders, these shadowy financial firms that issue mortgages to riskier borrowers or fund massive commercial real estate projects or make loans to other landlords. These are the kinds of loans traditional banks often avoid now because of the regulations put in place after 2008. But pension funds, hungry for yield, are providing the fuel. They're buying complex, opaque securities backed by these risky loans. They're essentially becoming the subprime lenders of the 2020s, but wrapped in a much more respectable package. The risk has been transferred from the banking system, which is now more stable, to the retirement system, which is anything but. And here's where the thread pulls tight. We have two interconnected bubbles inflating, both pumped up by pension money. In residential housing, the institutional ownership drive has made the market brutally unaffordable and fragile. Any economic downturn that causes renters to miss payments hits the pension fund's income stream directly. In commercial real estate, think office buildings, malls, pension funds are heavily exposed through these private debt investments. And as we all know, the office market is in serious trouble. When those loans start to default, the losses will flow right back to the pension fund's portfolio. The funds are betting that the American housing market, both for renting and owning, will only go up. But what happens when it doesn't? The very mechanism meant to secure my father's retirement could trigger a wave of evictions, a collapse in new development, and a downward spiral in home values. I look at this from my perspective as an engineer and an entrepreneur in New York, and I see a profound design flaw. It's a short circuit in the system. The security of our long-term future is now dependent on the short-term volatility of an artificially inflated housing market. The pension fund manager isn't evil. They're trapped. They have to meet a certain return number, a number calculated decades ago, in a completely different financial world. So they make the rational, individual choice to chase yield. But when every major fund makes that same rational choice, they create an irrational, system-wide danger. They've become the new too-big-to-fail entity, but one that's woven into the fabric of everyday life, our homes and our retirements. So what's the takeaway? It's not to panic or to cash out your 401k. It's to understand the deep, often hidden, connections in our financial system. The security we're promised is often built on a foundation of risk elsewhere. When my father asks if his pension is safe, the real answer is that it's inextricably linked to the economic stability of a family thousands of miles away, paying rent to a faceless fund. Our fates are pooled. The unraveling of one thread, a wave of defaults, a sustained market correction, could unravel the security of millions. This collective gamble demands collective attention. We need to ask harder questions of our fund managers and our policymakers. Is the chase for yield putting our basic security at risk? Can we redesign a system that doesn't pit our retirement against our ability to own a home? For now, the dice are still rolling, and the table is the entire housing market. Thanks for listening. If this thread is one you think needs more people pulling on it, please share this episode. Subscribe to the Unraveling Thread wherever you get your podcasts. This is Ibnul J. Farabi for Light Knot Studios. Visit us at lightknotstudios.com. Until next time, stay curious.